work with your horses and you're starting to work on your groundwork, and we want to reinforce that before we ask our horses to move laterally, they need to move back. Okay? I'm going to reinforce that. When I start asking you to move laterally, they need to move. Okay, and I have to teach my horse to do that. The other thing they need to do is there needs to be an end to your lead rope, which means I'm only going to let them go so far. And then my hand has to stay still. If I let them pull my arm around, and I see this happening a lot, what are you teaching them to do? Pull on you. Okay? What's going to happen when you get out into wide open spaces? They're going to drag you all over the arena, right? Okay? You have the luxury of having a fence right now. They know, right? And you got to teach them. And there's some of them that don't understand because they don't understand what you're asking. They've never had any of this stuff done to them before. They're like, what the hell? And you have to take your time to teach them to back away. You have to take your time to teach them to move laterally and then moving forward, right? To help them understand what you want, okay? If I rush them through all of that, they might get worried, confused, leave out of there, whatever, because they're not really sure what I want. Once I've taught them, and how do I know if I've taught them? How do I know if I've taught it to them or not? They do it. They do it when I ask. That's how I know I've taught it to them, right? Okay, now there comes a time when we put a saddle on this horse, are we going to apply pressure to him? A lot of pressure, right? That saddle is going to be applying pressure. Okay. When I go out and, let's say the tractor comes around, and several of you have experienced this, something gooses your horse and it applies the pressure to him, right? And you have to be able to control that, right? Okay, that's part of what your groundwork is for. It gives you a tool to use to help control and to direct them where you want them to go when the pressure is applied. And I need to ask, okay, my horse knows. How do I know this horse knows? Because you already told. I just got done doing it. Right? Okay, so after my horse knows, and I know my horse knows because I asked them to do it, and they did it quietly. Sometimes you have to get a little more assertive on some of them to get responses. Then I'm going to increase my intensity. Because I want to know when everything goes haywire, and there's all this stuff happening to them, am I going to be able to control and direct their feet where I want them to go, when I want them to go there? Okay? Now we slow things down again. How's my horse responding? How's she looking at me now? She's not going forward. I want to be able to get my horse where I can get him to respond when I ask him to respond. Okay, and you see this mare kind of gets a little pissy when I ask her to go on around there. When they get get pissy, I'm going to eat them for lunch. Okay? You tolerate that. Think that they won't consider that a crack in the door? Okay, she's got to learn how to go forward. That was better, wasn't it? That was my fault right there, because I stopped. Easy. Listen. Okay? Sometimes I gotta increase the intensity on them. I want to see what happens when I do this. What happens when I put that pressure on them? I gotta make sure my horse knows before I start really doing that. Because if I start putting all that pressure on him, my horse, I haven't taught him that means to go around here and there. What are they gonna do? They're gonna flat check out, right? And they're just gonna leave town because they're just gonna be like, what the heck? And what you're doing is you're teaching them how to handle pressure. Okay? There's going to be times when there's going to be a lot of pressure put on them by something besides you. Right? And how are they going to react to that pressure? How are they going to respond to that pressure? What do you want them to do? You want them to look to you and say, what do I do? Okay? There's times when you want them to respond and there's times when you don't want them to respond. Well, we'll start here. Those of you who have horses that you're already doing this and they do everything, but they're quiet, and which is good. Okay, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. They need to be. I like them to be quiet. I want to help them to understand and teach them what I want first. Then I need to start to build up. Okay, we're going to ask him to move up a little bit more, and then we're going to ask him to come down. I'm not going to ask my horse to lope on the end of my lead for a while. You know why? Anybody? Have any idea why?
If you ask them to do something and they do it, they should stop and get rewarded.
Think about what it takes for a horse to do that. Think about how hard it is for a horse to be able to lope this circle. Is that pretty hard?
Yeah.
Okay, it takes a lot of athletic ability. It takes time to get one to where they're responding to go forward enough, that they're soft enough, that they understand that before I'm going to ask them to move up into the lope. Now that doesn't mean I'm not going to walk them and trot them, and I might get a response like a lope step here and there just to get them to where they respond to me. But it's going to take me a little bit of time before I build up to that spot. Now if they're free and they're all the way out on the outside of the round pin, that's a different deal, right? But to lope on the end of your lead in that space is awful hard for one to do. Especially a young horse. Young horses aren't very balanced in their movement. They don't really know how to collect themselves and use themselves. You have to teach them to do that. Okay? They have to build those muscles. They have to get stronger and so on, right? So we're not just going to tear in the middle and asking them to do that. But they can darn sure respond when we ask them to. Okay? And so if I'm getting, like, what's the ultimate goal here? Riding, right? Eventually we'd like to ride them. Before we can ride them, what do we need to be able to do? We need to be able to saddle them, right? Before we can ride them. Well, our groundwork is all something we continuously work on. The free lunging, the free working them. I think if you can get your groundwork figured out a little bit better, when you actually turn them loose, you'll be better because you'll understand your spatial relationships better. The other thing is that they'll be, because are you asking them to leave you doing groundwork? Yeah. Okay, so they're figuring out that they can do that and they can be quiet and they can be relaxed and so on, okay? And understand the purpose. The other thing